What's up, guys? Welcome to Off the Reservation, a podcast where we're going to discuss our favorite podcasts. And our favorite podcast is Off the Reservation. So stay tuned. And what's up, guys? I'm Mal.
I'm El.
And I'm the son of Picasso.
See, that's the problem is I keep going like I want to say podcast as many times as I want. And so I keep saying podcast.
Yeah.
It's like
is this podcast?
It's like Super Troopers where he goes meow. He's like, how many times can you say meow at this traffic stop?
Yeah. Right meow.
Right meow? Can I see that right meow? Podcast.
Podcast. No, really though. We so I have a confession, guys. I don't listen to other podcasts. I don't. I only listen to Off the Reservation. So here, this is your chance. Okay, I want you guys to sell me on your favorite podcast you're listening to right now, and yeah, let's not mention Joe Rogan. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Joe.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I actually haven't listened to any of his podcasts, just for the fact that, like, I don't know, it just never seemed like any information that I was like super interested in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he was still like, to me, he's still the guy that like did Fear Factor way back in the day, and I don't know if he still does it, but I mean, I'm just kind of like,
I think he does. I think they rebooted it, right? I think you said you watched.
I watched
episodes,
older
right?
episodes just to see like about, you know, what the controversy was. And don't get me wrong, like there's great editing and great production value, but it was just like frat boy banter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, after a while.
And it's just like, you're just a tool. You know what I mean? And like, I mean, sorry, you know, if he's one of your people that you like to watch, but you know, it's just like, good God, man, could you sound any more like a mouth breather? You know? And I mean, which is hard because, you know, I like MMA. I like, you know, the same type of stuff he's in, but it's just emptiness. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just
I mean, like I know he's had like a lot of guests on, and like I think that's the thing that's kind of like drawn me in, is just like the short clips they have,
because you
like,
want to hear from the people that he's interviewing. You know,
like there was Snoop Dogg talking about some of the things that he's gone through and like coming up and everything, and like I can't think of anybody else, but I mean, like a lot of the people he talks to have like very, very good insights into like the industries that they've worked in.
It's hard because he always interviewed like conspiracy theory people. And like that's one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is like conspiracy theories and things like that, paranormal. And like he gets those people, and so you're kind of forced into like hearing him interview, and then you're just like, you know, let down by his
immaturity.
Yeah, that's I was trying to think of the right word for it. That wasn't like,
well, what's funny is, okay, so you said that you like to listen to it for the conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and like one of my favorite things to listen to is like I guess I call them like horror stories, and the one that I like personally right now at the moment that I've been listening to a lot of is this guy. He goes by Swamp Dweller, and the name of his podcast is The Dark Swamp Horror Stories, and they're really, really good. Like, I mean, like he curates them himself, and the guy, he had done an interview where he talked about how he originally started off like playing music, and then eventually he was like, I got all this recording equipment, and I'm into like scary stuff, you know, the cryptids and horror stories, and like a lot of his horror stories like cover like people's own experiences. So people like write in and talk about like tell their story of like, I mean, what it was like, their scary story, like ghost story, working on a naval ship. You know, like there was a story of some guy falling off the edge of falling off the thing, and you know, now their ghost is haunting the bowels of the ship and everything. It's really cool. You know, I dig it. That kind of storytelling. But I mean, that's one of them that I got into, and I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in, El, like horror stories, that kind of level.
I think like, so like with podcasts and things like that, right? There's a certain like, you have to find a way to, especially when you're doing stuff like that, like horror stories can be very like think back to like Orson Welles, right? When he did like War of the Worlds over the radio and people freaked out, right? Like you can really take advantage of the fact that it's auditory, you know, and it's like you're listening to this like as it unfolds, you know, you don't have visuals.
Oh, because your imagination is 10 times scarier than reality.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could imagine that being like something to get into, man.
Oh yeah. And I think that's why I actually got into it, is for the fact that like, I mean, like, where do you listen to like your podcasts? So, like, you listen to them at work, you listen to them like when you're in the car,
well, see,
when you have free time.
That's my problem, is I don't have anywhere to listen to Usually it's just like on the drive, if I have like a long drive. I used to work in like the town next to us, so it was like a 20-30 minute drive from, you know, one town to the other, and that's when I used to listen to most podcasts. But like I live so close to where I work now. It's like I don't have that time, you know. It's like a 10-minute drive, and usually I'm not like, oh, I gotta put on a podcast, you know, because when you listen to a podcast, you want to hear the whole thing, you know. I don't like listening, especially if it's something where it's like you have to, like, if it's a story that's unfolding, like I want to hear the whole thing. I don't want to like just hear the first 10 minutes and then be like, oh man, I gotta go back to that, you know. So
well, honestly, I think that's why I liked his podcast for sure, is because like he'll release one episode, but then it'll be like 5 different stories, and they're only like maybe like 5 minutes long or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
But you see, the problem here, I feel like, is the fact that you don't have a sneaky headphone. See, like when I go to work, and I used to work in the warehouse, they were like, "Oh, you can't wear headphones," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I just like pull on my beanie and stick like one of the little earbuds. Not the AirPod, because it's white, but you have to go on Wish. You have to find the black colored earbud, and you can stick it in your hat. Yeah. Stick it in your ear.
No, there's plenty of people at work that do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so. Yeah, there's plenty of people at work that do that, and some of them are pretty obvious.
Quit
some of them
snitching.
Not gonna name any names here.
Don't name any names. He named names.
I actually just watched that episode the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
Elaine
like,
Bennis.
You on our list. But no, there's plenty of people that listen to music, and I'm like, I always want to, but I'm like, I'm gonna be the guy that like puts it in and then it just immediately gets caught, you know. But it's funny because they're really cracking down on it, because there's so many people trying to sneak it in.
Oh man,
you know, which is a bummer, because I'm like, I work so much better when I listen to music.
You
know?
like I remember like unloading trucks and everything, and like having like, you got some dude listening to like, I don't know, something just completely off, or like he's listening to Booty Jams or something like that, like getting down, like getting some Usher playing like club jams on, and I'm like, I can't handle that right now. I'm like in a small square box unloading a big truck with a bunch of sweaty dudes. like what's going on?
Listening to Babyface.
You know,
that's funny.
And so like I'd have to like throw in my headphones to be able to like keep up with the flow. Yeah.
Would you consider like YouTube channels a part of podcast?
I think so.
I think if it's a podcast originally, right, and then they decide to start filming. I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot of. I don't know if there's any podcasts that are exclusively on YouTube. Are there? Usually they're at least on like Spotify. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like a lot of, just like us, you know, if you guys are interested, you can go to our YouTube channel, check out, see our faces, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know. Is there like what do you mean, I guess?
Well, I'm just like, as far as for this discussion, because like, you know, there are, I guess the only real straightforward podcast that I listen to would be like the Sneaker Disc podcast, which is like strictly like, I guess, shoes and fashion. And then like there are other YouTube pages that I watch where they post, you know, every other day.
Oh yeah.
So I guess for this discussion, how would you guys view it? Would you guys view?
See, I mean, I would, because most of the time I'm like working while I'm listening to stuff. And so I will go onto YouTube and like, I mean, essentially treat it like a podcast.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, like for the ones that I listen to on YouTube, that would be, I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, true crime and, like, horror stories and stuff like that, like animated horror stories. There's one guy that I like listening to. His name's Mort. You can find his channel on YouTube. And I don't know, I mean, I haven't searched out his if he has any more than that, but I mean, like, for the most part, I listen to his stuff on YouTube, and those are like OnlyFans horror stories where, like, the girl, like, posted up all her pictures, and then one of her fans, like, stalks her down and, you know, terrorizes her or something like that. Or, like, I got a foot in the mail, and I don't know why it got to me, and somebody sent me an anonymous letter to, like, send it back to them or something like that. Or I went and did a deep dive on the dark web and ended up in a serial killer ring of something or other. And, you know, some of them, like, seem like super far-fetched, but, you know, like, when you're at night and you're like, man, I'm working alone in the dark, and you're like, oh, this is giving me the chills, you know, like, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, along that same lines, like, I got into another one, which is actually, I feel like, inspired me to, like, want to try this out, which was My Favorite Murder. And it's a true crime podcast with comedy. So it's not all like everyone's dying and blah 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 blah. It's like, you know, these two women, they talk about it, they exchange their banter about it, about, like, how, you know, how it may relate to their lives, or, like, what's even going on with their lives. And you know, they laugh about it and they try to process it through comedy, which I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's the way, like, natives in general process their traumas, is, like, through comedy. Because, like, you could hear about, like, oh, what happened? You're like, oh, I'm really sad. My dog got ran over by a car. And be like, oh, well, did you at least make a good hat out of him or something? And it's like, that's funny. And it's like, yeah, thanks, dude. I feel better now.
Hey guys, we just want to say thanks for listening, and remember to rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you have any questions, you can always DM us on Instagram at Off the Reservation Podcast.
And maybe we'll answer it on a future episode.
Now on with the show.
Well, so I guess for the sake of this discussion, why don't we say podcasts or something you can listen to, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
something you can listen to. Right? Does that fall?
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah. I think like right now what I'm really into is, like, First Amendment audits. Like, they really, like, are gripping, like, provocative, kind of in your face, and, you know, they're relatively short too, so you can watch like 4 or 5 of them in a row, and so you're like, you know, your adrenaline just, like, starts to, like, rise, and, like, you're just always at that peak. It's kind of crazy.
You were telling me about that before, but, like, for people who don't know exactly what like, explain it again.
Okay. So, like,
right
like, off the top of my head, so, like, the First Amendment audits, like, just go on YouTube, type in First Amendment audits. One of my favorite ones to watch is a guy named Amagansett Press, and, like, he goes out with his son, and he's real respectable, like, about it until, like, you kind of infringe on his rights, and then he stands up for himself. Like, some of these people just go out and they're, like, automatically like, fuck the police in the police's face, you know what I mean? And, like, he's at least respectable about it. And so, but basically what they do is they go out and they hold city officials and I guess public entities, like, accountable for their jobs. And so, like, they do that by going and filming them in their day-to-day roles. And so you see how some of these people act, and some of these people, you know, are true dictators. They're true tyrants, and they act certain ways when the camera gets on them. And, you know, in this day and age, there's cameras everywhere. So it's like you catch that behavior and it just goes viral, you know what I mean? And so they catch a lot of these viral moments with these police officers or these city officials behaving badly, and, you know, but it's cool because in one sense it's entertaining, but in the same sense, as a private citizen, you realize, like, holy shit, we do have rights. You know what I mean? And if you don't, it's just like muscles. If you don't exercise them, then they're gonna go away. You know what I mean?
Well, see, and in contradiction to that, like, a lot of, because, you know, that's a big thing now, is like going out and trying to confront your public officials on the things that they're doing and the injustices or the things that they're not aware of. And I don't know, like I haven't seen First Amendment, so I don't know what necessarily he does. But I mean, like in that general state, like I feel like some of these people are bordering on like, I guess what we would call like Karen energy, you know, going up and just like, you know, somebody's doing stuff. But I totally get like why it's necessary, because you want to try to uphold these officials who have these positions. But
Well,
I mean, like it totally feels like
quote
Karen
some of them,
energy.
like, who watches the watchers, right?
Yeah.
Like, we give these people power, but yet we don't hold them accountable or even keep track of that power.
Oh yeah.
So by just walking and filming them, and it's kind of crazy. You see a progression of it, like from how First Amendment audits started about, you know, maybe 6 years ago, and you see the progression of it to it now, where a lot of these police officers realize, like, holy shit, we are on film. We can't just, you know, put our knee on your neck. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to record.
Yeah.
And so you see their behavior get better. But at the same time, you still have those people who are the old school busting heads, LAPD way, and those people are, you know, getting called out online. And so, like I was telling you guys earlier, it's like the court of opinion, a public opinion, is like come to the surface, and like it's just social media.
Yeah.
And like it's like once people like make a verdict, it's like people want to call it cancel culture. So I don't know, but it's entertaining. It lets
Yeah.
you see the pros and cons, because, you know, you do feel bad for these police officers at the same time, because you see they only have 6 months of training, so you're undertrained, underpaid.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with the public at its most, like, best of times and the worst of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see them, giving a kid a sucker. Well, before that, he was dealing with homicide. You know what I mean?
You know,
so it's kinda,
another kid
Yeah.
who got hurt in
Yeah.
some way. Yeah.
And so, you know, it just comes down to training. So, you know, these people should, I don't know, we can get into more policy.
I mean,
but
it feels like we should like be like mental health should be like a priority in our society now. Like I had this whole idea that like back in the day, like what we should be pushing forward in this world is like we've already taken care of like most like everyone's working on cancers, everyone's working on like most of the common illnesses that we have going on to keep our bodies physically alive, but nobody's really pushed to get mental health, like to get that normalized, to be like, hey, look, yeah, you know, we're taking care of the lumps on your bodies, you know, you got that mold checked out, but how are you doing mentally? Like, we need to like ask people, like, how are you doing mentally? Like, are you guys healthy and happy? Sorry, mental health is a big thing with me.
It is, you know, I think that, well, so you kind of wonder like about the situation. You're like, how are there like lifetime police officers? You know what I mean? You look at like all the PTSD that, you know, our troops go through. Well, you know, eventually they have a time where they retire. You know what I mean? They're out of service. Like, how are these police officers like serving for a lifetime? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And still carry around that PTSD and not have that affect their job with the public.
Well, I mean, honestly, like my wife, she worked as a 911 operator, which is a different thing than a dispatcher. A lot of people think that they're the one and the same thing, but she worked as the operator, so she took all sorts of calls. And you know, the fact that, and she only did it for about 2 years, at which point she was kind of like, this is too much, this is too heavy. Mm-hmm. I need to
we get burnt out, right?
Yeah,
Get burnt out.
I mean, I feel like burnt out is too,
it doesn't encompass everything that.
Yeah, because on one hand, she helped out a lady, and the lady was like, oh, you know, thank you, called back in and was like, hey, thank you so much for helping me while I was in my darkest hour, you know, or like in the scariest moments of my life. Or you know, and then she gets a call from a little kid who's just like, hey, I need help with my math homework. And she's like, oh, okay, let me help you out. And then, the next call is, I think my daughter's been abducted, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's all these ups and downs every day. And I can't even imagine how it is to be a police officer, like reporting to some of these scenes where, like, I mean, she has some really funny stories too.
I mean,
like,
you're like 6 months isn't enough.
Yeah.
To
even be prepared, and then on top
Yeah.
of that, it should be like a daily training. I mean, like,
and then to deal with the aftermath of certain things.
yeah.
It's like everybody wants, like, I don't know. I don't know if we want to get into the idea, but it's like you have to be strong. You have to be tough, and it's like you can't talk about how you feel.
Yeah.
Which, like, to a certain extent, I agree with it, some of it. But another way, I'm like, well, no, like, you don't need to hold that in. You know what I mean? You went through trauma. You know what I mean? You saw some stuff. Like, don't, like, let everybody else's, I don't know, views or feelings about mental health and seeing a therapist, like, dictate you taking care of your mental health. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
So, with all of our first responders and
firefighters and paramedics and everyone else.
Definitely. Well,
and I think that's the cool thing is, like, I feel like that's why I actually listen to these podcasts, is like almost like a feeling of, like, I need to prepare. Like if I can prepare for every scenario, then maybe I'd be able to be helpful in some kind of a way. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I listen to, like, true crime and these scary midnight campfire stories, because if you think about it, like, the act of telling stories for so many years was, like, built out of this thing of, like, oh, we need to learn a lesson out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, why do we tell the boogeyman story when we're camping? It's like, oh, because you don't wander around in the woods at night because something's gonna, you could run into a bear, you could run into
there's boogeyman.
Yeah,
there's real boogeyman.
And so,
they
like,
have badges. I'm just joking.
We don't need no stinking badges. But yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like podcasts have taken off, and why they're, important in this day and age, because on top of that,
they're enlightening. They're the new, like, what did you call it? You call it YouTube U. Like, we were talking about how I fixed something, and I was like, I watched it on YouTube. I watched.
YouTube
University. You can learn anything. Yeah, by listening. So you think about, like, you go to university, you go to college, you listen to lectures, right? Like, half the time. Like, yes, you have textbooks and you read, but for, like, the portion of being in school, you're listening to someone talk to you about subjects. So that's what's kind of cool about podcasts, is, like, they bring the lectures to you, and you could, then you just kind of have to, like, suss out the stuff that you're listening to. So, make sure you're bringing the right information. You don't need, like, anything crazy, but like,
Well, and I think the cool thing is, like, so many people can create their own podcasts. And I mean, if you
case in point.
I mean, the fact is like, if there's anybody, any other people in our area or want to get in contact with us, you can always get in contact with us and, start your own podcast or YouTube. Yeah. I mean,
and so I think, like, for me, like, and we've talked about being creative people so much. We've discussed it at length, but, like, this is, for me, like, a really great way to just kind of get some creativity that's, like, been building up, be able to let it out, wanting to, whether it's, being able to talk about it or putting the video together or editing the actual thing, it's like, it's fun, like, it's enjoyable. When I'm not, like, having a million other things like I have to do it, I'm like, but, like, no, like, this is fun, and like you said, anybody can do it. Like, y'all can, unless you're really, really not that interesting, then, no.
I mean,
I don't know. I'm pretty uninteresting, so.
I mean, you're pretty darn interesting. We'll that's why we did this with you. It's because I mean, I don't know if we'll ever release it, but our first, like, attempt at the episode, I mean, it was just Son of Picasso and me, and we were like, let's get into a topic, and then we just, like, flew all over the place and, like, had all, like, at least, like, 50 different topics for, like, an hour, And then we went back and re-listened to it, and we're like, we never finished that
Yeah, it
topic,
was like-
and we never
It was
went
like
anywhere
rapid
with that.
fire of stories and topics. It was just just kept going, like the Energizer Bunny.
And so I think that was the thing that was important to this whole group, is adding you, because you also keep us on topic. You're the cornerstone.
I'm the glue in the binding of the book.
Yeah. But yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go check out what's your recommendation, Mal? What was the name of it?
The other one, the first one was let me pull up my thing. Dark Swamp Horror Stories. This guy, he goes by the name, the moniker, the Swamp Dweller.
Oh yeah, the Swamp Dweller.
And if you guys are interested in hearing his campfire story kind of thing, go check him out. Also, My Favorite Murder. I mean, dude, My Favorite Murder has been around for like 6 years.
Oh, I remember like listening to it when we were driving to Santa Fe, and
Yeah.
like I was just like, oh, I wish this trip was longer so we could finish listening to it.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, they cover serial killers, different like kind of murders and things like that.
After listening to that, it made me like look at my neighbor a little different. I'm like, I'm watching you, bro. You have like,
Well, that's the thing, is that, like I guess it made me a little bit more paranoid.
yeah,
But at the same time, kind of like also understanding, because at the same time they're always like, dude, you have to understand, like, not everyone's a serial killer. And I'm like, but they could be.
they have the potential.
But have you seen them?
I think that guy has a basement.
Oh,
But yeah, and then the other one was Mort. If you look him up, he has a
Mort.
channel, Mort, on YouTube. Check him out. He does I don't know, the urban. I guess I would classify him as like a urban. What is it? A urban. You know the word I'm speaking of.
I really don't. I'm trying really hard to receive whatever it is you're sending to me.
Urban. God, I can't remember what it is. Urban. The one-
Legends?
Urban Legends. Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Goodness, I wasted like 15 minutes trying to figure that out.
I was like,
Urban
wait,
Legends.
Urban music, urban,
Keith Urban.
Keith Urban.
Urban. Carl
Yeah, yeah,
Urban.
they're like urban legends, and so God, man, that's embarrassing. And
It's
then-
okay. That happens to me all the time. My wife is like, she's
I'm
like,
better
I
in print."
can't read your mind. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, I'll just make sentences up. I'm like, hey, do you know that thing? Just the thing over there, just past the thing with the other. She's like, you can't use thing for everything. Like they have actual names.
You know
She's
the
like, I'm gonna
thing
stop
next to the other
responding to you, and she did. So I was like, now I gotta really like use my words. It's time to use my big boy words.
That's funny. There's certain times where my wife looks at me and she's like, I'm not in your head. Just come on, say a little more.
She's like, I'm gonna need you to finish that thought.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Eventually, I'm just like, I'll just do it myself. I'm like, hold on, I'll go get it.
And then Son of Picasso. First, was there a specific person you thought? What was the guy that you meant? The guy that you said that you liked, that he was. Because I've seen some, and it's just like, it's like
So-
intense in your face. Like, the
Yeah,
whole
so
time.
this guy's pretty good. He goes by Amagansett Press, and then he also shoots with his son, who goes by Watching the Watchmen. If you just go to my Instagram page, you can find them on there.
Oh, okay.
But they do really good stuff. You know, they're really informative. They're not just there to like start shit. They're there to like really educate people. And then one of the other places I've been watching a lot of news from is Status Quo News. Like they're just very analytical with their news. And so
What kind of news do they cover? I mean, is it the same kind of thing as like the First Amendment, or is it?
no, like what they do is they cover like main events, like right now is like the war with Ukraine, right?
Ukraine.
But they just don't present like one side, like the liberal side. Like, you know how a lot of people are like just have the Republican side or the Democratic side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they present like normal people versus the people that make over $150,000 a year or like $100,000,000 a year. Do you know what I mean? So they're really
Yeah.
on the side of of the common man, so to say. And so it's just in, you know, a breadth of real information, you know what I mean, versus like Fox News and all the other crap out there.
Yeah.
So
Nice. All right, guys, I have a confession. I do listen to podcasts. But I was glad to hear of some new suggestions because I got to say, I've been looking for something else, you know. The one the most recent one I've been listening to is if any of you have ever seen the show Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the cast, the three main cast members, they started their podcast, kind of rewatching the show, and they go episode by episode from the beginning, and they just kind of talk about like what was going on in their life at the time, or like, hey, do you remember the stories of, you know, when this happened or what happened, you know? And it's cool because I got to the point where they brought in Danny DeVito onto the show, and they were like, yeah. I guess they did it because the network was like, you know, we think you guys need somebody to help, like someone with some star power to help this show, you know? And they're like, we were really reluctant, but you know, it just kind of worked out, and Danny was like the best person for the job. You know?
he kills in that
It's
series.
crazy, man. And so yeah, it's a good podcast. It's definitely not as serious or scary.
Yeah.
It's definitely just funny and
Pure
and
comedy.
good fun. And it is something that I'm like, I can listen to it for 10 minutes and
Yeah.
not have to worry about it. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to. But I got some great suggestions here, and I hope everybody listening was able to hear something too. So,
In fact, in the comment section, put your favorite podcast.
Yeah, that'd be
put
great.
Their @ handle.
yeah. Send it to us or DM us. Let us know.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for reaching out. We had a really great last episode.
Yeah.
And you know, it was really great. Again, special thanks to first guest Dave Dutsway. Yeah.
Man, that really was a dope episode.
It was a good discussion, and I think we were real honest when we said we want to have him back.
I mean,
we weren't lying to you, Dave.
I think that we need to do a deeper dive into it. You know?
Yeah.
For sure. I think it's a subject that there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say about it, you know, and I think it's important for people to hear. So
Well, and I think the cool thing is that, I mean, just him in general, like, I mean, we grew up with him, like, going to church camp and, like, him coming to church and speaking to us in different ways and fashions and forms. But, I mean, to actually, like, feel like this was our first time actually sitting down with him and him, you know, telling us about his life and the things that he did. And, I mean, I love the fact that he was like, so I went to this place, I can't tell you where, and we did these things, and I can't tell you what we did, but yeah, the food was really great.
Oh,
and I
Dave was legit.
I was
like Dave's the frogman.
is he a spy?
He's a seal.
yeah. He was never specific about, you know.
You know, I heard Dave Dutsway actually took out Osama.
I also heard he had the Plaza meter.
Yeah, no, he won that dance off. Do you remember that? Oh, we love you, Dave.
He's
you're
the
a good
man, the myth, and the legend.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll definitely have Dave on again, and but I think we'll also dive deeper into that last topic we had, which is if you guys enjoyed that discussion and you thought it was good, let us know. For the few of you that have already, let us know. We appreciate it. We've seen your comments, and we're just happy that we were able to talk about it. It was something that was close to our hearts. So
Yeah, and shout out to Beth, Charlotte. Who else do we have? Oh, the
Jody, yeah,
Jody Havila. She also commented, and she hadn't heard it. And the lady up north. I mean, we were really surprised because the lady came on. Messaged
yeah, we had
us,
a listener from Alaska message us.
and I'd love to get their name, but I feel like it was a native name, and I don't know if I could pronounce it
we
well.
apologize. We don't want to.
But you know who
Yes.
you are,
Yes.
and we greatly appreciate you and your help.
Definitely.
And listening in. And thank you guys for sharing the podcast with so many people. I mean, we've really expanded in this last episode, and you know, shout out to you guys for being there and listening in and being a part of this. No matter how much you guys think you're doing so much more than you know.
Yeah.
And remember, if you haven't already, to rate, review, and subscribe. And you can find us on Off the Reservation _podcasts on Instagram or YouTube.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a good week.
Yeah, you guys have a good week.